Hey, it's been a long time. If you don't know who I am Joanna Becker, and I am a professional illustrator. I am also a returning art YouTuber. So my last video was posted 8 years ago, and I'm coming back to kind of give a recap for this first initial post and tell everyone where I've been for 8 years and the things that have occurred in that time frame. But because I know time is precious, I wanted to keep this to about a year a minute. So I hope that you enjoy this quick recap of my professional experience throughout the last 8 years. 2019. I was a sophomore in college and I had just started my YouTube channel. I was posting consistently on a daily basis, which very quickly exhausted me, especially when I would be getting up early to work on videos and then head to class. And as soon as I shifted into junior year for the next half of 2019, I knew this isn't going to work. I need to have all the sleep, all the time, all of the spare energy needs to be put into doing classwork and making sure that I am, polishing my assignments and getting everything tip-top shape, because this art college is not as easy as a lot of people might assume. We had very strict assignment parameters. You had to make sure that everything was exactly the way it should be for a client, and also the university that I attended had very strict attendance guidelines. So if you missed 2 classes, you were okay. Third class, you would get dropped an entire letter grade, and then the fourth, that class is over. So you make sure that you got to class, and I knew that I would need to lock in and always keep my energy levels up, and that just meant less time to pursue content creation and YouTube creation. 2020, obviously the pandemic hit. That was very brutal for me and a lot of my peers. I also had been looking forward to having a lot more senior studio time. So seniors in PCAD get their own space and their own desk to work at, kind of like an office in the college that you would be able to bring all your supplies to, make it your own, and that kind of just got wiped out. Obviously, I was very excited that I had my own at-home studio, so I was very lucky to have that. I also really missed out on a lot of that camaraderie that I was looking forward to. However, in a lot of the moments where I was stuck at home, a huge boon for me as a historical art lover is museums were putting all of their collections as virtual tours. They were adding more and more artwork to be easily accessible digitally online from anywhere, just because they knew that people were stuck at home and didn't have anything to really go do. So with that, I started to collect a whole bunch of art and media and public domain, especially from museums like the Met. A lot of them just put so much content online, exquisitely photographed, full turnarounds of statues, you name it. These museums knew how to get this stuff on the internet, and I was super delighted. And from that, I have a huge reference library of images of artworks that I saved because they spoke to me in some way, or I saw, wow, these techniques I want to try to get into my own work and my own art style. And I will be making several videos on some of the interesting finds that I was able to capture from these archives and digital libraries. In 2021, I graduated, and the effort that I spent in my classwork paid off. I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in illustration and a minor in art history, and I also had my first couple of client commissions as a professional illustrator. So I started with Mistakes Are A-OK Maggie May, and I illustrated a few other children's books, which was very cool to see my artwork in Barnes & Noble. In 2022, I was working through a poster company who initially hired me as an illustrator for illustrating a bird poster, but I also ended up becoming their organization manager and spent a lot of time helping them get their backend files set up and designing their inventory-based data set. So that was very fun, and it showed me that I could do a lot more with my analytical side as well. As a little aside, I also did a lot of short form content on TikTok during the last couple years or so, just because I was trying to branch out into different video formats, and it's hard to stay away from creating content when you have the drive to do so. In 2023, I met a lot of wonderful people through the Italian group of Lidditz and through the cultural center there. And because I was getting to know so many people, a few of the people were actually discussing theater, and Mary Kay told me about the Lancaster Shakespeare Theater. At the time, it was the People's Shakespeare Project, but because I hadn't done anything with the theater in so long, I decided to check it out, and I ended up becoming the stage manager for Merry Wives of Windsor. Through this play, I met my partner, Benjamin. 2023 was also my return to Pennsylvania College of Art and Design, this time as an alumni mentor, where they bring me in every semester to talk to current students and mentor anyone who's struggling with time management or different illustration techniques. So that way I can collaborate and work directly with current students to make sure that people get what they need to know and succeed at their classwork. 2024 was the year that I went from stage managing to directing. I directed a murder mystery called the Log Cabin Murder Mystery through one of the local restaurants here. And because it was a 1920s themed speakeasy type of establishment, it was really fun. We set it exactly 100 years in the past, so 1924, and I wrote most of the script. Some of the actors also added in, their own elements to characters, but it was like a culmination of everything I had been missing in terms of theater and content creation and wanting to give people an entertaining experience that also had underlying historical lessons. I also started to get more involved in making pet portraits and determined that that was actually a really good union of all of my different talents as an illustrator, because a pet portrait designed by me can have a lot of the historical elements, like the illuminated borders. I love to include that in my work, and this way I was able to have a lot of clients who got to see their pet honored in something that was handmade. I also want to point out that I have had a lot of hardship in these years. Part of it is burnout. I got burnt out from college and had to keep the ball rolling. I was a professional. I had to keep on, responding to clients, and that's its own kind of story, and I'll go into that in videos to come. But I ended up having several bouts of existential depression, a lot of things that I had to go to therapy for, but I was excited to return to my art practice. In 2025, I was diagnosed with OCD, which makes a lot of sense for a lot of the things that were aggravating me and making my life a little bit harder. Well, a lot a bit harder, but knowing that I have it, I can work towards a better future where I can manage it and not let it control me as much as I wasn't even realizing it had my whole life. So, with that being said, some of the things that I've been going through make a lot more sense, and I am working actively to mitigate some of the more negative experiences that have occurred because of my depression and mental health issues. So, that's another big part of why I've been gone for 8 years. And here we are in 2026. And I have a lot of hope for this year, ending it out with a lot of strong projects. I also started my master's degree in adult education through the University of Phoenix, and this is because I would like to teach on a college level. The degree is actually designed to help you if you want to teach adults in a more formal instructional, like through an institution like PCAD, or if you want to make your own adult classes and help adult learners in other capacities as well. It's also been really cool to understand more about myself and how I learn through learning about how adults learn. So that's been really fun and cool. And with this post, I am restarting my YouTube channel, and my goal is to post once a week, hopefully every Thursday. That's the current plan. So hopefully I will see you next week, and I hope that you stay creative. Ciao!